What's up everyone, I am Logan with 89 AutoWorks, and I just want to go ahead and start this video off right and say thank you to everyone who has gotten to this point with me. We have officially hit 1,000 subscribers. This is a moment we've been working towards for a very long time, and unfortunately, with the events that have been happening in life lately, things have definitely slowed down on the content train, and we are working our way back to it. It is going to slow down more before it speeds up because we have huge updates coming, and in the next 2 weeks, life is going to start getting very interesting. So make sure you stick around. We are working on this bad girl again today, so let's just jump right into it. Today we are back working on our 80 series Landcruiser, and unfortunately we have started this video once and we had the worst case scenario happen. I would call the worst case scenario when you are doing a head gasket job on anything would be pulling the threads out of the block. And unfortunately we had that happen, and I will show you guys some of the footage from when we were originally going to install this. One more time. Don't fucking tell me this shit right now. Oh, you guys just watched the absolute worst case scenario of all of them just happened. So we are going to be taking a different approach at doing this entirely, and we reached out to a company called Timesert, and we got their Timesert universal kit. Basically what this is a solid insert, which I will show you guys one quick here. This is a solid insert that you drill the block for, and basically how this works is there's threads on the outside and there's threads on the inside. You're drilling it out. It's very similar to a helicoil, except this is a solid thread. So we will be drilling this. This kit comes with everything you need to be able to drill your block efficiently and not risk actually damaging the block. Being so that this comes with a jig, and the jig is used to make sure you are perfectly in line when you're drilling this. Reduces the chance that you have of actually pulling studs. So we actually ended up going, and I'll show you guys the footage, but we ended up pulling and we checked all of the head studs that, or I should say head bolts, and we had 5 different holes that we could not achieve full torque spec on. So we will be drilling and tapping all of those holes just to make sure when we go back together we do not have any problem. The other big one that we are going to be changing, that is a bit of a conversation point among the forums with us 80 series guys, is we are going to be installing ARP head studs. These are 2JZ GTE head studs, and basically it is a pretty simple kit, but it gives you a reusable head stud, and you can get a significant amount more clamping force out of these than you can a head bolt. And to be honest with you, I hate torque to yield bolts. It seems like it's always one of those things that there's never a very consistent number you get out of torque to yield where you are physically torquing this to a torque value. There's no 90-degree turning. There's no any of that you have to do. So this is, in my opinion, a significantly better option for this application. I don't really have a ton of plans for the future for actually modifying this motor, but I would not put it past myself to see a supercharger in our future for sure. And at minimum, this adds a fair amount of safety to the process. So I will go ahead and we'll talk about some of the key features of this Timesert kit and how we are going to start actually installing the Timeserts into our block. All right, so all I did now is I went through and I removed the tape around all of the head stud holes. This way, so once we secure our jig in place, the threads are available for the bolts to hold the jig in place that you use the head bolts for, or the head bolt studs for. So at this point we can now go and start measuring our actual holes. So we're gonna just kind of go over the contents of this kit. It's a pretty good one. As far as I'm concerned, it's the best one. Spent a lot of money on this kit to make sure we were getting what we needed to do the job 100% proper. So basically what we have here is this is a core drill bit. There's two different size drill bits on here. There is the smaller diameter, and then there's the stepped diameter, which is what accepts the top of our actual thread inserts, which you guys might not be able to see, but they are tapered at the top, so they actually have a stopper in them. So what we're going to do here, the first step, and we do have directions, comes with all the directions and everything you guys need to be able to make this work, but we are going to measure our thread depth using this tool right here. It is laid out pretty clearly. We'll go ahead and flip this way so we can get a good measurement. And basically, like it shows inside here, there is a gap from the top of the deck to where the threads start. We need to measure that depth. So once we have taken our depth for the top of the threads, we will then take and add 38 millimeters, which is the size of the bushing that is used in the actual jig. So if we were at, which we aren't, but if we were at 10 millimeters, we would then put the whole setup at 48 millimeters up to account for this depth. Once we have that applied to our actual drill bit, we go ahead and use our lock ring that comes with it. There's an Allen wrench on the side of it that I haven't determined the size of the actual set screw on yet, but that will get locked in place on our drill bit, so that way once we drill everything out, it is all the exact same depth as what we have here, or what we are working with here. So very important, very critical. These all have to be done correctly. There is a pin that you use to align your actual, you will use to align your jig, and you lock everything in place. It comes with bolts that are 11 by 125, so they will actually fit directly into your block and makes everything nice and simple. It comes with specific driver oil for when you're actually installing the inserts. And it also comes with specific thread locker / sealer that would be similar to a Loctite that is specific for this application to make sure that you are locking the inserts in place. And this is a permanent installation, meaning if you were to have to go back in the future and do this again, and do a head gasket again, I should say, these inserts won't come out with the head bolt or head stud in this scenario. So very important that we get this done correctly. So we're looking at 9 millimeters is what our depth is, and they do tell you to make sure you are measuring each hole because sometimes they're different. And for the most part, our 9 is looking very accurate. So we will go ahead and assume that that is the number we're going to be using. So 9 plus 38 is 47. And so we will go ahead and bring this whole setup up to 47 millimeter. And we can use this now to mark our core drill. Like I had said before, this setup, you mark from the actual bore, counter bore edge. So there, 47, and we would mark the drill bit right here. Now this is going to be something that's kind of hard for me to do, and I am going to grab a pair of calipers to make sure that we are getting a very precise measurement on here to ensure that this is being done properly. So this does accept a 1/8 inch Allen wrench here. Very important that you get this set up in a position that is going to hold and not move and screw you, because this will destroy your motor if you get this wrong. Our kit also comes with an alignment pin that slides perfectly into this. So what we will do is we'll go ahead and set this on the block. We will put our bushing in place, and then we will use the alignment bushing or alignment pin to line it up perfectly. So once we have that position dialed, we can take and start threading in our bolts. We use the smaller ones on this one. So now that this is all in its home properly, this is where this guy comes in, and as you can see, it will fit perfectly into the hole because that is how it is designed to work. We will bring air over here with an air gun, and we will periodically clean this out. I highly recommend using WD-40 or some other drilling lubricant while you're drilling this out to make sure you don't overheat the drill bit or overheat the block and wreck it even further. So we will be using WD-40. That's what they recommend. And we're gonna go ahead and grab some air and slowly start going at this. Yeah, I don't love the fit of the tap handle, but so this is where you just gotta go nice and slow, making sure that you don't screw anything up, because this is where you absolutely will. So then we'll go ahead and put our bushing back in, find our threads that we just made, run it in by hand. All right guys, pardon me for having to have jumped around. My camera died and I decided it would just be a good idea to keep going forward here. So I did a couple more of these in the holes that were bad. Unfortunately, we have one hole that was looking troublesome that actually wasn't for sure bad, that we're gonna have to just run it because I can't get this set up in there with the tools that I have, and it should probably maybe be fine. So here is your thread insert, here is your insert tool. How you're going to do this is you need to use this driver oil, put some of this on the actual threads of the driver. Then we will take and we will run this insert onto the driver. It is a very tight fit. And you'll get about halfway on and it'll stop. And then we will use the Timesert thread sealer, and I put just a little bit across the bottom of both sides of the threads here, and then we will use this, and this will go into our hole here. And then from there we will grab our and we'll slowly drive this in. It'll get to a point where it gets a little bit more difficult and you have to keep going until your line lines up with the top of the pilot, or whatever you want to call this piece that I can't think of what the word they're using for it is right now. Okay, so now it's starting to get hard. We only got a little bit more to go here. And then it stops. So now that we're at this point, basically we'll go ahead and we'll get we'll do one more pass with a nice clean paper towel, make sure everything's perfectly clean. We'll go ahead and add our RTV here, and then we will throw our head gasket on, and we will throw our head on. I'm not going to film this part. It's kind of a miserable job, and I'm hoping that I don't have to film this part. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. Hopefully nobody's offended. So just real quick before we hop back over to getting this head on the car, I just want to talk about this Timesert kit and how I feel about it overall. I feel that the kit was a very, very well put together kit. I'm absolutely not by any stretch of the imagination getting any sort of breaks from them on this kit. I paid full list price on their website for it. I paid for expedited shipping. I think that the biggest thing that was annoying is on this 1FZ, there is inconsistencies in the depths of the thread. It's not super relevant to us because the threads on the head studs are so much shorter than the actual hole anyways. So everything should be fine. But if you're doing this on your Landcruiser, make sure you just pay attention to the fact that it is not going to be quite what you're expecting for the depth of the drill bit and how far it's going in every time. It's a little bit different. So make sure you guys are, checking that out if you guys are needing to do this job on yours, and make sure that you are also using a quality thread chaser like an ARP. This is an 11 by 125 thread pitch for the head studs. And it is just a good idea to chase all the threads prior to actually installing head studs, just to make sure that you are getting that perfect depth, perfect, install job because that is what actually creates the strength, is how well they are installed into the block. So make sure you check that out. All right, so our head is installed. We have our ARP studs here. The Allen wrench on the top of the stud is a 3/16 Allen wrench, and we're only going to use this purely to aid in driving the stud into the block. This is not for applying torque. We will get them as close to hand tight as possible, but we will not apply torque this way whatsoever. It's important to note that we use this ARP fastener assembly lube, and we will lube the ends of the stud itself, and then also the washers and bottoms of the nuts. So we have no binding whatsoever, and everything is smooth sailing, happy camper, good to go, love life. So for the time being, I think we're just going to go ahead and get them all installed in here. Okay, so all the studs are in the block. We are going to go through and tighten them up in equal torque value all the way up to 80 foot-pounds. We're going to start at 30 foot-pounds, do 60, and then we will do 80. Boom. So 2 words to describe yesterday. You know, last we talked, we were tightening up I'm not even tightening up. No, yeah, we were tightening up our head studs. That was the last thing we showed yesterday. Bam, we are fully assembled at this point. Why is this not a good thing? Let's go back to our 2 words. Emotional roller coaster.